All right, guys, this is going to be our fourth construction lesson. This time we're going to be constructing parallel lines. How do you construct parallel lines? Well, there's 4 steps, okay? And the way we're going to go about constructing parallel lines is we are going to copy angles. So you'll need to remember how to construct congruent angles. So I'm going to kind of walk through these 4 steps and then we're going to practice them, okay? So these are the 4 steps to construct a parallel line through a given point. Okay, so it's going to go through a point. So as you see in step 1, we have point A. Point A right here has a line, a dotted line going through there. So that's actually your first step. With your straight edge, you're going to draw a line that goes through the line that we want to make a parallel to. So the dotted line. Now, when you draw it, you don't need to draw a dotted line. This is just kind of to try to make it noticeable. And so that line, that dotted line, is eventually going to be a transversal. So down here, let me get my highlighter. So this angle right here, this blue angle that I just colored, we're going to actually copy that angle up here in its corresponding position. And so you can see that I made the compass had made an arc right here, and they labeled these points right here, B and C, because those are important because that's how wide the angle is. And then you made that same arc up here, and then that intersection point's important, so that one's called E. Okay, and so remember that's still point A. And so then you measure your compass with your compass from B to C to see how wide it is. Okay, and you don't have to make this arc, but you can. And then you come up and place it on E over here, and you make that arc for sure. And that intersection point right there, we'll just call it, what are we on, D? We'll just call it D. And so all you do is connect A to D like so, and then there you go, you have your parallel lines. Okay, so little challenging, but basically all it is copying angles. So let's practice it down low over here. So it says, do the example in the space below. So let's make some parallel lines. This is the line that we're going to make a line parallel to, and it has to go through this point. So the first step is to make that transversal, okay? And it can look however you want it to look. It does not have to be, it doesn't have to be a certain way or a certain angle. It can be however you want. If you want it like this, you can do it like this. I'm going to put more of an angle to it, like so. Okay. And so we're going to draw this line. Let me get a pen. I'll actually use blue. And you got to make sure it goes through the point. Okay, so now that you have your, what will be our transversal, okay, we are going to copy angles in its corresponding position. So it doesn't matter which angle you copy, okay? So I'm going to go back and remind you of the different angles that we've worked with before. Like this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you could copy any of those. And then let me remind you, this could be angle 5, 6, 7, and 8. So do you remember how 1 is corresponding to 5, 3 to 8, 2 to 6, and then 4 to 7? You can pick whichever angle, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then copy it in its corresponding position. So there's different ways to do this, okay? So let me get rid of these numbers and get them out of the way. All right, so let's copy an angle. I'm just going to copy this big obtuse angle up here. Okay. And I'm going to make an arc on that big angle up here, okay? Now keep in mind, we're going to come down here and we're going to make that same arc as we would like when we copy angles. See, I copied it in its same relative position. So I'm going to number those for you, okay? I'm copying angle 2 into, I don't know, angle 6, whatever you want to call it, okay? So see how they're in corresponding positions? Okay, so I'm going to label this point A and point B because those are real important points, because now I'm going to go measure how big from A to B is. Okay, so go get the width from A to B. Now, see, let me get my pen. This point right here, I'm going to label C. C is just as important, okay? Because so think back and measured how big from A to B is. Think you're going to go from C to an arc that we're about to make. So let's make this arc right there. And so now all I have to do is get my ruler and connect. Let's label this point D and this point E. Okay, so where they intersect, that's E. And so now I'm going to label, or I'm going to get my ruler and connect. And you want to try to be as precise as possible, because sometimes when you're off just a smidgen, the lines don't look parallel. So I think that's pretty good right there. So let me get a different color and make this line. So that green line should look parallel to this one. And again, all we did was copy the corresponding angle 2 to 6. Those two angles are in corresponding positions. And so you already learned that corresponding angles, when they're congruent, then you create, it should be a set of parallel lines. If the corresponding angles are congruent, they don't have to be congruent. Then if they're not congruent, then the lines are not parallel. So we're using that rule, okay? All right, let's try it again. This one's a little different though. It says construct a parallel line to the given line through the given point by copying alternate exterior angles. Okay, so you also learned, and you have to remember that whenever we have parallel lines, we have alternate exterior angles that are congruent, and we have alternate interior angles congruent, and then we also have corresponding angles that are congruent. So let me get my ruler. And the first thing that I want to do is make a transversal. So let's put it more at an angle like this, so it's kind of intersecting this line over here in the middle. All right, so let's get black color. All right, should draw a nice big transversal. Again, don't draw a dotted line, then it gets a little complicated sometimes. Okay, so think about it. Alternate exterior angles. Okay, imagine a line right here, and I'm going to sketch it, but I'm going to erase it. Imagine a line being parallel going through that point. Remember where alternate exterior angles are. They'd be right here, this one, and what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 and 8 are alternate exterior angles. There's one more set, 2 and 7. Those are also alternate exterior angles. So we're going to copy those in that particular spot so we can create parallel lines. Okay, so let me get rid of my sketches because I actually need to do that. Okay, so my compass, I'm going to copy one of those angles. So I'm just going to do, I'll do the acute angle this time around. Okay, so this one over here. So I'm going to do 7 and 2. Okay, and you don't need to remember those numbers, guys. The numbers, I mean, they're not set in stone. Okay, so I'm going to copy this angle in its alternate exterior position, which would be up here. So I'm going to make that arc over there. Okay, and it doesn't hurt to help make it a little bit longer than the one you already made. Okay, and so I'm going to label this one point A and point B because those are super, super important, because now you need to go measure how wide B is from A. All right, so you get the measure like that. And then this point C up here is the other important one, because now that's where we're going to place it, because that's our only intersection we have with that arc. Okay, so then I'm going to make an arc right there, so it crosses it. and then that is point D, okay? This point over here that I didn't name yet, we'll name that one E. And so all I have to do is connect point E to D, and they should be parallel. So let's go try it out. Get your straight edge. Line up E to D. Remember, you want to be real precise. Looks pretty good. Sure it goes perfectly through that point. And the intersection, so through E and D is what you want it to go perfectly through. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So let me get a pen. I'm gonna get a different colored one. I'll go with green. And let's draw a long line. Looks pretty good, pretty parallel. Sometimes, like I said, when you're off by even just a little bit, they do not come out parallel. Okay, so this line is parallel to this line by the means of copying alternate exterior angles. Okay, so be able to copy angles in different positions and still perform, still construct parallel lines. So there's different ways to do it. There's actually 3 different ways. All right, one more problem for parallel lines. This is deals with a polygon. It says construct parallelogram, hence the word parallel in the word parallelogram. So construct parallelogram LMNO with the given segments LM and NM. Okay, so I'm going to make a parallelogram. Now, I know some of y'all are probably thinking, well, I can do a rectangle or a square because those are parallelograms. Okay, well, not a square because we have 2 different side lengths, but a rectangle is also parallel. I don't really want you to do a rectangle, okay? So we don't want to take the time and construct a right angle when we don't have to. So parallelogram just means opposite sides are parallel. So since I just taught you how to construct parallel lines, that's what we're going to utilize here. All right, so let me get my ruler and my compass. And so the first thing that I would probably want to do is construct and have an idea, guys. I always used to tell my students, make a little sketch over here. Okay, so this is what a parallelogram looks like. And one side is smaller, so LM, so we can put LM like so. And then that side is MN, so we can put that one there, and it says LMNO, and O would be up here. So see, our parallelogram is going to look something like that. So always do a little sketch so you have a plan of what to do. If not, you'll just kind of maybe sometimes remain lost. All right, so I have the longer side I'm going to put over here. So let's start off by making a long line. You have to remember the properties of copying a segment. Start off with a long line. Okay, and then I'm going to measure, I'll do the longer side first because I want to put that on the bottom, just like my sketch that I did. So go measure exactly how big MN is, and then let's make an arc. I'm going to have it on this end right there. So make an arc, all right? And then we might as well label it too, okay? So that's going to be M, and that point right there is going to be N. Okay, now we're going to make LM. Okay, and remember LM I have in my plan to look something like that. So I'm going to get my ruler. Let me stick to my same color. And you're going to make another long line, like so. And do you want that side to be as big as LM? So go measure how big LM is. There we go. So now we're going to place it on M. Get a different color. Point M, and then make an arc. And this will be point L. Okay, so at this point right here, there's different things that you can do, okay? We have to have a set of parallel lines, so I'm going to show you one way on how you can get this done. And then I'm going to show you a different way after the fact if you have a great memory of properties of a parallelogram, okay? So there's different things that you can do. So I'm going to continue this way. I can make a parallel line. Let me sketch it for now. I can make a parallel line going this way, and then I can kind of just go from there. Or I can make a parallel line going this way, and then I can copy and go from there. So there's two different things that you can do, but you do need to make a set of parallel lines either way. So this is one way to do that. So I'm going to copy angle M over here at N. So I'm going to get a different arc. Use a different color so you can kind of tell what I'm doing. I'm going to copy this angle over here. Remember, don't change your compass setting. Okay, and make that same arc right there. And then remember, you want to go measure how wide the angle is. And I didn't label them this time because I don't want too many letters over here, but you can. So imagine if those were A and B. You measure how wide A and B are, and then come put it over here at C. Right? Whatever letters you want to label them, it doesn't matter. And then put it at C. Make an arc there. Okay, so now you want to get your ruler and draw a line going from in through that intersection point. Okay, so let me get my black pen. Like so, and draw. You can draw it extra long just to be on the safe side. Now remember, this opposite side should be the same side length as LM. Remember that opposite sides are congruent on parallelograms. So I'm going to go measure how big LM is again. So that way I can come over here to the other side and make that arc. So I'm going to put it right here at N. Make sure you always are right on the point. And then let's make an arc. Okay, so that blue point right here, where that blue arc is, that's going to be point O. So now I just have to get my ruler and connect L to O. And it should be right there on the money. And there we go. You can see parallelogram L, M, N, O with those exact measures. Now your friends may have a slightly different one because they didn't give us a restriction on how big this angle needs to be. Okay, right there where I put the question mark, that doesn't have to be a certain size angle. Okay, I may give you a certain size on your homework, but it didn't give us one, so we were free to kind of make it whatever angle we wanted. Okay, and then we made parallel lines. Okay, I want to show you one other way, okay, to make this parallelogram, because you should know that opposite sides are congruent, okay? And I'm not sure how well you remember, but I kept stressing this in class, is that when you have opposite sides parallel, it forces opposite sides to be congruent, okay? So let's say we start off with that bottom line. We're going to do it exactly the same way we did the other one. Okay, and remember, we can make whatever angle we want. Okay, let's make it a little bit bigger, just to kind of show you that it's still going to be a parallelogram, and it can look different. So we started off with this. Remember, this is going to be M. I don't know where N and L are yet because I have to go measure exactly how long it is again, because you need to be precise. I'm going to measure how big that is. I'm going to come down here and make an arc. So place it at M. Make an arc. So that's exactly where N is going to be. Now let's go measure LM. And let me get a different color. So that is going to be L up there. Now remember, I just stressed to you that opposite sides are congruent, right? So I'm going to make an arc. Notice I kept that same measure because opposite sides are congruent. I just finished measuring LM, which should be the same over here. Okay, and then the bottom is as big as MN, so that's what LO needs to be because opposite sides are congruent. So guess what? Now I'm going to place it at L and get my red so it matches. And I'm going to make an arc there. Okay, because remember, that's the same thing that I did here. Made that same arc. So do you see that intersection point right there? That's going to be point O because opposite sides are congruent. So watch when I connect these points here. Oops, undo. All right, so see, there it is. Look at how the opposite sides were forced to be parallel because opposite sides were congruent. So I didn't even have to construct parallel lines because of the way the geometry properties work. In a parallelogram, when opposite sides are congruent, it forces opposite sides to be parallel. And conversely, if opposite sides are parallel, then it forces opposite sides to be congruent. Okay, so these are two different ways that you can construct a parallelogram, LMNO. And that's it.